So let's get started. Welcome everyone. The Board of Selectmen March 17th, St. Patrick's Day special version of the Board of Selectmen meeting. I am John Jeffries, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen, and we are meeting virtual via Zoom, consistent with Governor Baker's orders of 2020. My goodness. So we're going to have to decide if we're going to be back live at some point in time soon. But for this evening, we're meeting via Zoom. Please take care not to share your screen. When we ask you to speak, would you please identify yourself and with whom you are associated with, if it's a town body. As I said earlier, I'm John Jeffries, Chairman of the Board. Robin Hunter is here. Bob Springett is here. Will you both identify yourself? Present?
Present. Robin Hunter.
Did I get it right?
You both got it right. Congratulations.
First time.
First time. Well, there's a first time for everything. So our first order of business is going to be to ask Kate if we have anyone who's contacted you for Citizen Speak. Kate?
No one has contacted me, but if someone if anyone has a public comment right now, they could raise their hand, or if they're on the phone, if they could just speak up. Now would be the time. I don't see anyone, John.
And I don't see anyone either. So we're going to move to our first order of business this evening, and that is the introduction of Kevin McCabe. Chris?
Thanks, John. I'm happy and excited to formally and officially introduce and welcome Kevin McCabe to the town of Dover and to the Dover team. Kevin is our first ever Public Works director. Kevin takes over for Craig Hughes's former superintendent of streets position, which he served for many, many decades. It's the repurposed. We repurposed that position into the director position during the Public Works consolidation study and plan that the board implemented last year. So I won't say too much about Kevin's background, as I think he wants to share a couple of things with the board tonight. But Kevin comes to us from the town of Sudbury, where he's most recently served as the director of operations for their Public Works department. So he's got a whole host of really great and applicable experience around operations and engineering and large capital infrastructure projects, many of which are before us now and in the future. So it's a great fit, and we're happy to have Kevin with us as we embark on some of these larger projects here in town. So welcome, Kevin, and I'll turn it over to you, John, if that's all right.
That's perfect. Kevin, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. I'm excited and honored to be Dover's first Public Works Director. As Chris touched on, I've spent the last 4 years of my career with the town of Sudbury. Prior to that, I worked for the city of Newton in their engineering department. And then prior to that, I was a private consultant engineer in Worcester. I have a background, obviously, in civil engineering and graduated from Wentworth Institute of Technology. And I'm excited to tackle all these capital projects we have before us, such as Claybrook, the Willow Street grant, and then engaging in intermunicipal project with the town of Needham at the Central Ave Bridge.
Well, it's you do have a full slate of things in front of you. So welcome, congratulations. And Robin, would you like to comments, questions for Kevin?
Stop eating? Sure. Hey, Kevin, welcome to Dover. I enjoyed our conversation before you joined. I mentioned to Chris when I talked to him earlier in the week, I said, is Kevin still with us? So I guess it's a success. You've been here, a little over a week?
Yes, yep, started the 7th.
Yeah. So really looking forward to working with you, on all the various projects that we have in town and listening to your ideas. I know when we met, we talked about a lot of the good ideas that you have. I'm sure, some of the committees, like the recycling committee, we had talked about how active they were at the transfer station. So I just look forward to hearing from you. I hope this is the beginning of many presentations you'll be making to us. And welcome to Dover.
Thank you.
Bob?
Well, I'm glad Robin covered all of the important details because I'm in the world of I was having a meeting with Chris last week, I guess it was.
That's because you've had too many green beers already, Bob. That's the problem. We know.
I can't even count them, Robin. This is not going to be an easy get tonight. I met Kevin in the townhouse last week, I think it was, and I gave him ample warning and evidence about joining this particular team. So right out of the bat, the guy demonstrates poor judgment because he still could join the team, and here we have him. And I welcomed him at the office. I'm looking forward to working with you and helping Dover be the best it can be. Thank you for joining.
Perfect, Bob. Would anybody else on the call this evening like to offer Kevin their thoughts and congratulations?
I don't know about congratulations, John.
For making it this far. So
I was just going to interject. I'm excited. Kevin, this is actually a great introduction for me as the business administrator of the schools. We do work closely with the town. And so I look forward to introducing you to our new director of facilities who's been with us since August. And also just getting your expertise and helping with some of the projects that we do both at Chickering and then here at the Regions campus. So welcome.
Great. Thank you, Don.
thanks, Don.
And I would say, this is Carol Lisbon. I'm on the recycling committee. And Kevin, I think you've heard individually from all of us welcoming you. But on behalf of the committee, welcome to Dover. We look forward to working with you as well.
Thank you, Carol.
It's really nice. Thank you, everyone. So, Kevin, I'll leave you with this. There are a couple of homes that are very, very close to your office, and you'll see that there's a lot of levity and there's a lot of very, very serious things to address in Dover. So we try to bring you the best of both worlds. This evening, you've seen a little bit of fun, a little bit of sarcasm, a little bit of light humor because it is St. Patrick's Day, so we have to frame this accordingly. So there's a shed on both properties that are very close to your office. And in the shed that's the closest to your office, Bob Springett has left you this. So for the days when things get really, really tough, you can walk through the parking lot and you can open up the shed. And if you partake, well, God bless you. And if you don't, that's okay. But that's from Bob Springett to you, just in case.
And that's the empty one, right?
Yes, that's the empty. No. Kevin, that's just his way of saying welcome and thank you for all you've done so far, and we're looking forward to working with you.
Thanks. I'm looking forward to the opportunity and really rolling up my sleeves and presenting some good infrastructure projects and helping improve Dover.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to our next item of business, and that is the Dover Cultural Council presentation. Chris, would you like to introduce Judy?
Yeah, I'm happy to just give a quick introduction to Judy, who's the co-chair of Dover's Cultural Council. Judy and the team over at the council have done a really great job over the past few years, at least the 3 years that I've been here, and bringing some really great programs and opportunities and grant funds to the town. So really I'm looking forward to hearing and learning a little bit more about all the great work that they do on behalf of the community here this evening.
Thank you. I'm joined tonight with my co-chair, Wendy Gordon, who wants to screen share. So whoever can do that for her, if you can make that available to her. And two other members, Denny O'Clair and Sashi Chawla. So Wendy, if you can just share that document that we put in the packet. Not sure how much you know about the Dover Cultural Council. We are part of the Cultural Council, which last year had $28 million to divvy out to 329 towns and cities in Massachusetts. We got $5,000, which, as you can see in the document here, with COVID, a lot of the programming had to be either canceled or tried to pivot to do Zoom. So we ended up with a lot more money for that sort of grant cycle than we did in previous years. Each year we get a bit more money than the year before. Most of the money comes from the state budget. There's about $2 million that comes from the National Endowment for the Arts. There's a little over $5 million that came from gaming, both casinos and lottery. And then the rest is filled up by family grants and corporate donations to the Massachusetts Cultural Council. So, Wendy, can you move it down so we can see the other grants there? Just today, I got another update from Council on Aging with the exact dates that they are doing their ukulele program. But primarily, money comes and people apply for grants to use the money. They must have a Dover partner. It just can't be a random person who wants to put on a show without a place to be able to put on the show. So as you can see, the primary users of grant money are the library, Parks and Recreation, schools, Council on Aging. Sometimes it's churches, sometimes it's individuals who will partner with the schools or any of the organizations in town to use this money. Anyone have any questions so far? Or if Wendy or anyone else on the committee wants to chime in with a comment.
I think you did a great job explaining everything. If anyone wants me to scroll one way or the other, I'm happy to do so. If you have a question, please ask. It's a fabulous committee with wonderful people, that really work well together. So I've only been in Dover for 2 years, and I'm so happy that I joined.
In general, we get between 15 and 20 grant applications, and typically there are about 12 to 15 that we grant. And the typical grant is usually $300 to $500, but as you can see during 2020 and 2021, we had lots of money to use up, so we gave it in larger quantities to places like Chickering School and Dover Parks and Recreation and the library. As part of our charter, we have to do a community survey. So Denny can do a presentation on that. If the person controlling that can let Denny O'Clair share her screen, she will talk about what the community-wide survey provided in information and what Dover wants as cultural enrichment.
And of course, it's not going to show. There it is. Okay. Can you see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay. So I can't see you and I can't see
anything except a presentation, so I'll just move forward. Yes, as Judy said, are you seeing the preview too, or just the presentation?
That's the presentation.
Okay, good. We started the survey at the end of October and we closed it at the end of January. It was very brief, consisted of 5 questions. This is the preface to the survey, and thanks to the help of Felicia, we got 50 responses because she put it in the newsletter and also on the website. So I'm just going to run through them very quickly. The first one was, were you aware? You can see that the majority of people are aware, but there's enough that aren't aware that that's something that we want to pay attention to. The second question was, how did you hear about it? You can see that social media plays a large part, the local paper plays a large part, and word of mouth plays a large part. I was also impressed that the town website is up there too.
So Danny, your screen isn't moving for me, so you're still on the first slide.
Okay, so you're still seeing the
preview presentation.
Right. So you're actually not in slideshow mode.
So you're seeing
the slides on the side, and then the slide.
That's what I wondered, if you were seeing that. Okay, all right. Let me try one more time.
There you go. We're now on slide 3.
Okay. All right. Let me try one more time. Now, are you seeing the first slide?
Yes, the first slide, and we can still, as Robin said, we still can see the remaining slides on the side. So I don't think it's in.
Yeah.
If you click down towards the bottom, you'll see what looks to be a small screen. If you click on that, then it'll bring it up into presentation mode.
Yeah.
And then if you want to change your display setting, you click down on that over to the left.
I'll just go ahead and do it because I don't want to take up too much time.
Okay.
So you're seeing preview though, right?
Now we're seeing the presenter's view where you can see 2 slides.
Yeah,
okay.
So if you go up to display setting, you can change that.
The display.
I think if you just click through the slides, you should be fine.
Yeah. I have a there. I have a touch screen, so I have to.
Perfect.
Okay, is that better?
Yes.
Sorry about that. Okay. So let's see. I think that was the first one, and this is how do you hear about it? Okay. And then just to pick up where I left off, the banner in town center I found was prevalent in these responses. So that was good to know. Rank what you believe should be the most important priorities for funding. And people were asked to give their top 3 recommendations. You can see that nature, science, environmental rank the top. I'll go to the actual data because it gives you a little clearer picture. You can see that it was ranked the highest, but what got the most votes was support for community arts and cultural organizations with 45. There was no real outliers in this. They all got fairly close range of numbers of votes, but the top votes were for the top 3 were nature, science, and community-wide gatherings. Other suggestions, these weren't really substantive. There was working with other groups came up a few times, and really to come up with events isn't really what our remit is. It's more about funding what other people want to do for events and programming. Any additional comments? Really, this is the final question, was we need to communicate better. That's really what the responses are saying here, that we need to communicate what we do, how we do it, when we do it, etc., a little bit better. So if anybody has any questions, that was it.
Danny, do you have anything specific that you do in conjunction with the Historical Society? We had a really a great presentation from them 2 weeks ago, and I just wonder if there's a crossover or any synergy between the two groups.
They have on the slide for grants in the past 3 years, and that's basically the time period that the current council members know. So I know they have in the past, and they were considering having us help with the restoration of Amelia Peabody's dollhouse, but they did a GoFundMe and found their own way to pay for that.
Nice. Thank you.
Only crossovers. I live in a house built by Amelia Peabody.
You do?
Yeah, I live in the deck house on Walpole and Ferry Lane, built by Amelia in 1969.
Very cool.
That's the only crossover. Thank you.
That's legitimate. Thank you. Robin, Bob, questions, comments?
So I'd like to thank you for your presentation. It was very helpful. I think it's great for the community to see what you do and how you fund some of the community activities that we have. You said, you know, what you did learn from your survey was communicate better. And I think we all face that challenge. So I'm curious if you've thought about how you can better effectively communicate than you are right now. Because I think all of us are facing, you know, we want to communicate, we try to communicate, but what's the effective tool of getting our story out there?
We haven't talked about it yet because the survey just closed and we put together the results. So our next meeting, I think that'll be on the agenda. I mean, to me, it depends on who you want to reach and where you want to reach them.
Right.
It really is about, you know, the communication. So I think social media is big. And I imagine that Nextdoor is probably one of the biggest outlets for that. It really depends on the age group you wanna reach to. You know how the demographics and social media work.
Right.
You know, I don't think we're going to be going to TikTok anytime soon, but hey, who knows?
If you do, you can teach me how you do it.
This is Shashi. Talking of communication, I think one effective tool was that we had a booth at the Dover Days Fair, and we did try to talk to many people who came by.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bob?
It's fascinating that we have these organizations in town, you know, and doing incredible work. And I'm glad that we started this little effort of trying to pull people into the BOS meeting so that there's some exposure. Because I mean, I just didn't know. And sourcing money and distributing money to worthy causes is not too shabby. My question is, how do you get into the business? So I do. I mean, I'm glad you guys came, and I think it's just terrific what you do. I had a meeting with Deb Reineman, who's the principal at Chickering, yesterday. And one of the things that we spent a great deal of time on, what ideas I had to improve communicating with the public. It's a common problem. Everybody has it. It's a very, very difficult thing to do and to do well, because there's no longer, you know, you don't listen to Walter Cronkite at 6 o'clock on CBS. It just doesn't exist anymore. And so the most effective strategy that I think that we have as a town, and Deb is working from the school side, is use multiple venues. She said that from her perspective, that the website was a pretty good source. And one of the goals of the board has been to try to make the website, the brand, the town brand, sort of the go-to place for accurate information. So I was happy to hear that you got some response there. But there's just no one avenue. And you hit all the right notes on communication. Who's the demographic? What's their preferred way of receiving information? Blah, blah, blah. And then it's just slogging through. but it's critically important. So thank you again.
Just to highlight Chickering, they received over $2,000 between 2020 and 2021 for a project called Chickering Grows and Chickering Gives Back. So when you visit the campus, you will see coming up hopefully very soon hundreds of bulbs that the Council on Aging and students and teachers planted. In addition, during COVID lockdown, members of the Council on Aging partnered with Chickering students and they grew amaryllises, or amaryll, I don't know how you say that, and they recorded them. They were pen pals back and forth, seeing how the flowers grow because they grow so quickly and so boldly. And then some of the extra money was used to build, the Boy Scouts built birdhouses with some of the money, and that went to seniors so that they had something during COVID, look out the window and see nature engaged in the world continuing, even though we were all huddling inside. So that was a wonderful example of how one project can bring in Council on Aging, Chickering students, and Boy Scouts all together to do something really fun in town.
Bolster community, right? Bolster the sense of community. And
Exactly.
Again, it's special work.
Yeah, it really is. Well, Judy, thank you very, very much. Wendy, Denny, Sashi, it really is a pleasure to have you here, and we appreciate the work you do and the effort that you bring to the community. It really is something, it's a treasure for the community. So thank you, and I hope you continue to do it and continue to derive pleasure from it. It's great to see you this evening. Thank you again, and to all the other members of your committee. Really appreciate it. I'm going to move to our next item of business this evening and introduce Don Fattori. Hello, Don.
Hello, John. Nice to be here this evening. I'm representing the Regional School Committee tonight. Their Vice Chair, Lynn Collins, is traveling out of town. And any second now, I think, though, you will see Kathleen Smith, our interim superintendent, hop on. She was over catching the first half hour of Beauty and the Beast, which is performing this weekend at here on campus. So if you haven't already purchased your tickets, I'll give them a plug too. So Kathy's been with us for this school year, and we've been pleased to have her. And she's enjoyed getting to know both the Dover and Sherburne communities and participate in sort of how we roll out with our two governing bodies, in that she's used to Brockton, which is a much different environment. So hopefully she'll hop on, but I will just begin our presentation in that we haven't been before you since fiscal year 19 regarding our intergovernmental agreement, which we refer to as the IMA. But given the size of the capital project that we have on our plate for this coming year, we are coming before both boards requesting approval for the use of the IMA. The school committee approved this on February 16th. We presented to the Sherburne Select Board last Thursday night. They have voted to approve it and actually have already executed all their signatures. And tonight we're here coming before the Board of Selectmen of Dover to present to you the reintroduction of the IMA. So I think, Robin, you're probably pretty familiar with the IMA as Bob is, because it has been around, I think, when you guys were in school finances.
Actually, I set it up, Dawn.
Oh, see, here we are, the founder, 2014, right?
A long time ago, right?
Yep,
How long did that take?
2014. So thank you. I don't even have to answer any questions because you know exactly what's going on. So Kathy says she's in the waiting room for whoever is controlling the waiting room.
Kate will let her in, sure.
Yeah, thank you. And so, like I said, we haven't brought this forward since fiscal year 19, and the reason why is our capital projects were at such a dollar level that we could fund them through our free cash. But again, this larger project that we are bringing forward, which includes the restoration of the rooftops at both the middle school building and gym, as well as Lindquist Commons, far exceeded what our E&D actually is. So we are bringing it forward. It's my understanding both towns are looking to actually bond this go around. I think one of the reasons why, and Robin can say, corroborate, is that the IMA provided the towns the opportunity to either decide how they wanted to fund the region's portion of capital. So I think the majority of the IMAs that have come before tonight have all, I think Dover has paid free cash for their portions, which allow them to save on the bond issuance costs and the interest payments, whereas Sherburne bonded and incurred those costs. So this is a little bit different this go around because it's like I said, I believe both are bonding. But I gave you a little background about the project to give you insight as to what you're approving. This was presented during Barry Goldman's capital presentation on Monday evening. And really, I think what we're bringing forward to you tonight is the use of the IMA for this project.
Dawn, thank you very much. I believe I know Bob and Robin and I have all seen the presentation. We were all part of the presentation for the warrant committee on Monday night, so we've seen it. Bob, Robin, do you have anything you'd like to add or questions you would like to pose to either Dawn or to Kathy?
I do not, as Dawn mentioned, the reason this was put into place was prior to having an IMA, all capital was bonded at the region. And this is really a tool that allows either town to determine how they want to pay for the region's capital. So, I am certainly in favor of moving forward with an IMA for Dover for this year.
Thank you. Bob, anything?
Oh, yeah, same, John. It's a tool for flexibility for each of the towns. And it sounds, as it's explained, it's relatively straightforward. And knowing what the capital expense projections are going to be, it seems like a good way to handle this particular spike in spending. So.
Agreed.
Yeah, and Mona, got Dawn to challenge us because she let us know that Sherburne has already signed it. Mona will be driving it around to all of our homes.
I know, exactly. And I have it sitting in my bag to drop off in your office tomorrow, should we get a positive vote. So you actually have the actual IMA in full, with all the descriptions in it along with the amount. So Dover's amount, you have 55.39% of this capital project, which is $872,393 is the portion allocated to Dover for this fiscal year.
Great, thank you, Dawn.
I don't know, Dawn. Why aren't you dropping them off at our house?
Well, you know what? As Kathy knows, I'm taking tomorrow off. So if you're home, I'll be more than happy to drive. I can cut through the woods to get to your house. Robin, I don't know actually if I know where you live anymore, Robin.
Not far away from where I used to live, just around the corner.
Yeah, so I'd be more than happy. As you know, though, we actually also asked for the seal, so someone will have to have that available.
Alicia, she lives in the neighborhood too.
Yeah.
See, I've got my whole day's planned.
All right, so then I'm going to make a motion. I move to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the town of Dover and the town of Sherburne and the Dover-Sherburne Regional School District.
Okay.
Seconded. Bob? Second?
Yes.
All in favor? I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
I, Bob Springett.
So, Kathy, we haven't given you a chance to even say hello to us this evening, and I thank you for dropping in. I know you've had a very, very long day. We haven't met personally, but as you heard just from Robin and from Bob, the three of us have many, many, many years of experience with the schools. We've all worked with Dawn personally. We've all been part of every budgetary process since Dawn started as the business manager, even before. I served, and I think Robin did as well, but I served on DSCF for 10 years and 3 years as the president. So there isn't, and it literally wasn't a budgetary item for all the years that my kids and Robin's son and Bob's kids were at the school that we weren't a part of. So thank you for all you've done this year.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry for being late. I actually ran over to your high school musical. Beauty and the Beast is going on as we speak. It is just wonderful, really. It makes me feel like things are getting back to so-called normal. So I did come in July. First of all, I want to thank Dawn. I've been in education a very long time with some very different budgeting. The commitment from the two towns is commendable. You are considerate of your buildings, your resources, your class sizes, all that give your students from pre-K, through 12th grade, many, many opportunities. So I'm going to miss being here. I'm so pleased at the work we've done this year. And again, I have to tell you, Dawn got accolades at every school committee meeting, and I can see the trust with the Dover Selectmen, the Dover Warrant, the Sherburne Advisory, the Sherburne Selectmen. So I'm very pleased to have been part of this year, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. Very nice. So Dawn, the challenge, Mona is going to accept your challenge. I guarantee you that we will get signatures faster than Sherburne.
Okay. Well, the challenge begins tomorrow. I will get it into Mona's office ASAP, and I know you close early on Fridays. So, right?
You're enhancing Mona's challenge.
The only person she ever has a challenge with is me. She has to text me, email me.
Yes. And so that would be wonderful. I will do that. And then when we have the completed executed agreement, we will make sure Mona gets a copy for your files.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Great.
Thanks, Dawn. Kathy, thank you very much. We really appreciate everything. And we are looking forward to all of the events of this spring. I'm sure we'll get a chance to see each other in the not too distant future, live and in person. So thanks for your attendance tonight. And Dawn, thank you for everything. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. Great. Thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Good night. So we're going to move to item 4, the Pine Street land opportunity discussion and a potential vote. The Conservation Commission members in the Open Space Committee are here. Our friend Amy Moot is here. Amy, would you like to go first?
Sure. I think I'm actually representing both the Concom and Open Space today.
Congratulations.
Because I don't see anybody else from either one, or maybe I'm just not seeing them. I think most of you know that the Doverland Conservation Trust has made an offer which has been accepted for the church Pine Street lot that is the Dover Church wood lot, which is 8.5 acres between a piece of land that's owned by the town and and a bunch of land that's owned by Dover Land Trust and forms the heart of their Snows Hill Conservation Reservation. And the Concom would like to buy a conservation restriction on that 8.5 acres for $25,000 from the Conservation Fund and $25,000 from the Adams bequest, the Arthur Adams bequest. We have a memorandum of understanding that the Dover Land Trust has signed off on, and that is what we're asking you to sign now so that we can release the funds to them. And we will execute the conservation restriction subsequently to that. It's similar to what we've done on the Blake property and also Porter Trust. Basically, it guarantees public access on the lot as opposed to Dover Land Trust deciding whether or not public are welcome. I don't imagine there are very many properties where they would say you're not, but you never know. Perpetuity is a very long time. And
as it turns out.
Yes, and we're also going to work with them to make sure that there's some parking accessible to the lot. That may mean that the parking is on another piece of Dover Land Trust land, but to make sure that there's, reasonable parking so that people who do want to go to the lot will be able to. The Dover Church, as part of the land deal, will continue to be able to use the small chapel, that the outdoor chapel that Jerry Arnold and a bunch of others built there in the 90s, I think, 80s, 90s. There are several trails that loop through the land, so it is a pretty important piece to conserve. And they're closing in on the full 800,000 as we speak. They've been asking for pledges to be fulfilled, so they must be pretty close. They should be closing by the March 26th, 23rd, 26th is the closing.
Well, that's great. Thank you very much, Amy. I as on the call this evening.
So John, you're frozen up, backing up.
Knows I serve with Amy on the open space, so I'm very familiar with this. I've read the frozen.
You froze and got kind of.
Yeah, you went out there for a while. You back?
Did I? Yep, I'm back. Well,
Now you're
I
good.
can. No good. Okay, sorry about that. Did you? I don't know what you heard.
I didn't. It was all sort of garbled. You should.
Yeah, it sounded like you were in a witness protection program.
What do you mean, like he was?
That's supposed to happen after St. Patrick's Day, not during St. Patrick's Day. I just said, Amy, thank you for that. I think everybody on the call knows that I'm part of open space, so I have no questions or concerns. Robin, any comments, questions?
Sorry, I was on mute. I do not.
Bob?
No, I think we've been here before. It's nice to have more land turned over, conservation.
Yeah, it's great. It's great leverage for the town's funds because we're getting 8.5 acres for $50,000.
It's kind of mountainous.
Only 20, and only 25 of that came from citizens because the other 25 was a bequest. So
Amy, it's kind of hilly. It's a hilly area.
yes, it is. It's ledgy and hilly and wet, and but I can share the trail map so you can see the trails that go through it, and then of course there's the beautiful little open air chapel, which hopefully the church will be using, and should there be another surge in the pandemic, God forbid, they could use that for services and be a little safer if they wanted as well. And as could St. Dunstan's or any of the other churches or groups who are doing anything in town and they want to have a little meeting. There's some nice benches and
So I was thinking the
pedestal.
challenge would be parking. Because Pine Street is very narrow. It's pretty windy along that area as well.
Right. It's right near the road up to the fire tower. So that's part of what we're going to be discussing as part of the CR is to try and figure out how to make some parking spaces, not necessarily on the church lot itself. They may be on one of the other near the road up to the fire tower. That would make the most sense to me, looking at the maps and knowing a little bit about the area. So I think that Snows Hill Reservation, the DLCT property to begin with needs some more accessibility parking anyway. And this will motivate them to do it.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
So I am going to go to the motion and move to approve the memorandum of understanding by and between the town of Dover and the Dover Land Conservation Trust, and ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
So moved. Amy, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate you.
I think you need to maybe sign it, or I don't know how to get the funds released to them because, as I said, they're busily trying to collect all the funds. But I think Lori set that up and gave their Needham bank account for the transfer to maybe to Mona.
Yes, I have it all, Amy.
Oh, great. Thank you
Yep.
very much, Mona.
You're welcome.
Want to
The
make sure
board-
they get their money.
Yes, I have that. And the board needs to come in tomorrow with their pens ready.
Okay. Thank you, Mona.
You're welcome, Amy.
And Mona, in addition to Don Fattori, we have an Amy Moot challenge. So can you imagine having to face the wrath of both Don and Amy in the same weekend?
No.
That would be tough. Amy would make Bob ride Gino.
Right.
Tough horse to handle. Amy, thank you. We're gonna move on to item 5 and say hello again to Chris Dwelly. Chris is going to give us an update on fiscal year 2023 operating budget. Chris?
Thanks, John. Each year around March and right around open hearing time, I come back to the board to give you an update on changes that have occurred with next year's budget based on activity over the past couple of months. So Kate's going to bring up a short slide deck that I put together to highlight some of these changes. And while she's bringing that up, I'll say that fortunately things didn't change much in terms of revenue changes from state aid or local receipts or from an expenditure side either in terms of departmental changes or new requests. So on the next slide, Kate just gives you gives you a high-level overview of the town's revenues and expenditures for FY23, as well as an overview of the operating budget and the total budget and where we are at in terms of our levy capacity. So on the revenue side, nothing has changed in terms of our new growth. In speaking with the assessors, we're still projecting $125,000 for next year. State aid has not changed since the governor released his budget in January, and our local receipt number has stayed the same in terms of our target. On the expenditure side of things, the board voted, the personnel board recommended, and the select board voted a 2% COLA for non-union staff. We've got a composite 2% increase for all of our school assessments that we've got in over the past 2 months. We've confirmed our retirement assessment at a 7% increase, our liability insurance at 8%, and we've got a 5% reduction in health insurance. We've talked about that in the past, but that is a result of the new modeling that we've put together to pinpoint what our exact health insurance costs will be. So overall, from an operating budget standpoint, we're looking at a 2.6% year-over-year change. That's essentially right where it was when we last had this presentation in early December. So all things considered, all in operating capital, special articles, we've got about just under $1.5 million in unused levy capacity. On the next slide, Kate, I highlight the operating expense changes that have occurred since the initial budget presentation in early December. They're listed here. The first is the Board of Health's request for a public health agent and a public health nurse. The public health agent would be a new full-time position, and the public health nurse would be either an increased contract, a part-time position, or a full-time position that would be shared with a neighboring community. These two positions come from the recommendations that came from Community Paradigms assessment of the Board of Health, which the Board of Selectmen saw about 4 to 6 weeks ago.
And Chris, these increases are offset by savings from these positions in the consulting line?
So it's important to note for the public health agent, they anticipate paying this position in future years out of the fees that are taken in for the permit and inspection applications. However, we anticipate a transition period where the full-time position will be on board, but we'll still need the services of our existing consultants. And we wanted to make sure that there was enough money to be able to run both of those concurrently. So $50,000 of this $100,000 request is anticipated to be only a 1-year expense in FY23. And then the public health nurse position, there's been, some opportunities like regionalization that we've talked about, or, even health insurance billing. But from, where I stand, that's a little bit more unclear at this point in terms of what potential offsets would be for that cost in future years. The Conservation Commission has requested an increase to the conservation agent consultant who is employed by the commission based on the work that they have in front of them. The Selectmen a month or so ago graciously approved a new contract with our acting finance director. That cost is reflected there. And then our auditing contract, or our contract with our independent auditors, is up next year. And they have increased the costs just a little bit, which is reflected there. So those are the operating budget changes that have come in since the operating budgets were originally submitted back in December. The next two slides highlight, these are slides that you saw back in the winter. These highlight the, Kate, if you want to move to the next one, go up. Kate, you there?
Yep, I'm there. Sorry, just having some technical difficulties.
Okay. Yep, so we'll just pause right here. So this is nothing new. I won't necessarily go line by line, but this just calls out the new operating budget requests that have been included in the operating budget. These were all included at the beginning of the budget process earlier in the winter. On the next slide, I will highlight that there was a recommendation that was made related to the hiring of a new part-time solid waste position. I have still not included that in the operating budget. The last conversation that we had was centered around providing Kevin with an opportunity to look at certain facets of the highway department and public works related divisions, and give him an opportunity to see what the ideal and appropriate and proper staffing structure looks like. So I just wanted to highlight for the board that I have not included this in the solid waste budget at this time, and that's the $30,000 line at the bottom of the screen right there. So moving on to the capital side, I just wanted to highlight for everybody on the next slide the capital requests that have come in and been approved. Robin can certainly speak to these in greater detail, but I wanted to highlight, as it relates to the overall picture of our budget, the funding sources for these requests. As everyone knows, we've got a significant amount of capital requests, over $2 million this year. And on the right-hand side just shows the funding source for these. So the 1.5% commitment from the tax levy for them, a portion of the remainder in free cash that is based on the proposed reserve policies that have been discussed over the past few months and will be presented to town meeting. And one thing that I wanted to highlight was we'd recently gone through an exercise where we reviewed a lot of the outstanding special articles that have been appropriated and passed in prior year town meetings. And two things that came up was that we were able to come under budget for the the protective agency building roof project, as well as a air conditioning HVAC project over there. So we plan to, since we don't need those funds anymore, we plan to repurpose those articles to be able to offset some of the costs for our capital requests this year. On the next slide, Kate, is just and this is the final slide, just a summary of our anticipated free cash uses for next year. We are projecting our free cash balance to be just under $11 million this year. And I've listed out what our anticipated uses will be at this year's town meeting. All of these anticipated uses all tie back to the town's broader proposed reserve policies that were presented at this Monday's open hearing and will be presented over the next 2 months as we head into town meeting. So that's a high-level overview. Again, not too many significant changes. In terms of next steps, I'll be wrapping up the full budget book, making sure that everything is entered and updated and in. And I'll also be updating the overall budget model that the board and the warrant committee uses. You and the warrant committee will receive that sometime next week, and then you'll be able to take your votes and make any final recommendations or any edits that you might have on any of the select board budgets. That's it.
That's great. Thanks, Chris. So we've seen this now a couple of times. This is the second time this week. Robin or Bob, do you have questions or comments or anything you'd like to add?
I do not. Thank you for the summary, Chris. Very concise. Understandable. Perfect as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah,
Thanks, Rob.
I just like the numbers are working out okay. It's looking pretty good. So, and again, yeah, this is the third time through, so it's nice to be getting close to being prepared for town meeting in about 2 months.
Same. I agree with everything Rob and Bob said. Really, Chris, nothing to add. It's this is our second or third time, and maybe probably you and I the fourth time or fifth time we've got through all of it. So we're pretty well familiar with it at this point. So thank you. We do not need a motion, so I'm going to move on to the next item, and that is the appointment of Jerry Weiss as a full board member for the Council on Aging. And Camille Johnson is here. Camille, would you like to give us a little background?
Right. Well, the COA Board of Directors is requesting an associate board member, Jerry Wise, be appointed as a full board member of the COA Board to fill the unexpired term of Joanne Conley, who has moved out of Dover. Jerry was an excellent contributor as an associate member of the board, but she could not vote. With your vote, Jerry will be now a voting member of the board. So we'd like you to get a vote for her to be the new member of the board of directors. Thank you very much. And that's all it is to it.
That's perfect, Camille. Thank you.
Very simple.
Robert or Bob, any comments or questions?
Does anyone know Jerry? She's a very good contributor, very active as an associate member, even though she couldn't vote. So she should be a very good member.
Thank you.
So there are no questions. I think we should all thank Joanne Connolly for serving on the board and for all of her contributions over the years. And I guess you're now looking for another associate member.
We are looking for two. If you
Okay.
have anyone to suggest, please do. Let Janet know, because we will be having a discussion at our next board meeting. And we're hoping to get a few suggestions. We have one or two right now, but we would like to have more so that we can then invite them to a board meeting and let them see what we do and see if they'd be interested. And certainly Joanne did a wonderful job while she was on the board. We miss her a lot.
Where'd she move to, Camille?
She moved to Medfield near the state hospital, where there has a new group of housing there.
Yeah.
Medfield. And she has a detached house, which is lovely because out the back of it opens onto fields, right, and then to the river. And that area is not going to be developed. So she really is in a very lovely, lovely place. It's not on all one floor though. That's, I don't know how that will be long term, but right now it's wonderful. She has a lovely house.
I think, Bob, she's actually in a warmer climate the past few weeks, probably golfing and enjoying herself.
Yeah, that's something I would like. I did play on Monday. It was 60 degrees, but I don't know up here this time of the year.
Bob, do you have questions or should we make a motion?
I'm perfectly good. Perfectly good.
Okay.
Robin, you want to make a motion?
Yeah. So I move to appoint Council on Aging Associate Board Member Jerry Weiss to a full member of the Council of Aging Board.
Seconded. All in favor? I, John Jeffries.
I, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Scranton.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations to Jerry.
Camille, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Congratulations to Jerry, and please extend our thanks to Joanne.
Well,
Janet, thank you.
Of course.
We are going to move to item number 7, the Board of Selectmen updates. So, the Board of Selectmen updates, since we met last, we all have been very busy. There were the town caucus last week, which we had, I think, the largest attendance to a town caucus that I have seen in 15 years or more. It was, I don't know, the official number was well over 100, but I don't know if it was 105 or 115, or we just had a standing room only event at the townhouse, which was great to see. That was followed by the open hearing on Monday, where we had a jam-packed session. We really got through all the items. There was not really a lot of debate or discussion in the meeting, but the meeting lasted about 2 hours, about 2.5 hours. So it began at 7:30 and it ended at 10 o'clock. So one of the things that I think Jim Rapetti and everybody who is part of the meeting, is really encouraging people to prepare for, if we get into extended debate on any number of items that will be on the town warrant, people should be preparing for 2 nights. Because quite literally, it was 2.5 hours at the open hearing. So I do think it went very well, and I do believe that some of the items will be maybe changed a little bit between now and town meeting, but it was also very well attended, and presentations were very well thought out. So I thank everyone who presented on both the caucus, for all the people who nominated the officials who will be running for election, and in the open hearing for everybody who made a presentation that will be part of the town open the annual meeting for the town. The only other thing to add for me to add is open space did meet. We had a very lively discussion on a number of topics. We are moving many of the items, as you heard from Amy this evening, forward with success, as you heard earlier, on many of the items that we're working on. Robin, anything you'd like to report?
No, I don't have anything to report.
Bob?
I want to take a few minutes tonight, John, to sort of just review where we are with CMAC and the Merrill project a little bit. So in the June 21 town meeting was a milestone event. You know, it was sort of after 20 years of deliberation, right? The town finally decided what to do with the old Carroll School and fund a build, new, renovate project. So we sort of crossed the Rubicon on that one, and we've been to a new area. And I want to acknowledge, for the prior 20 years, starting sometime around 2000, the CMAC was initiated and staffed, and CMAC workers, they just worked diligently to create ways to turn a very well-used old skill building into a productive asset for the town. They dealt with all sorts of maintenance issues to keep the building open. They participated in any number of reuse studies and proposals to how to leverage the facility further. And finally, what the accomplishment, to me, what the big accomplishment was the efforts of CMAC, their perseverance and resilience over that entire period of time, trying to keep Carroll alive, trying to help the town make a decision. The facility was viable. People were enjoying the space, people used the space, and it gave the town the time to make a decision. It's impossible for me to overstate the contribution that CMAC made during that period of time. I mention that because we're sort of at another milestone event. Carroll, the building itself, will close either at the end of March or early in April. And in a way, that sort of, to me, it sort of signifies the completion of the CMAC mission, right? If you go back and CMAC was to do, make good use out of the facility, help the town make a decision, that all came to be. There will be, so the Carroll Management and Advisory Committee, that on the management side of the building, there will be no management, and everybody realizes that. And what management would have to be conducted before the building is torn down would probably sit with Carl Warner. And so that frees up a big piece of the role that CMAC played. On the advisory side, which is the other piece that CMAC has responsibility for, on the responsibility side, I guess it started last.
Yeah, you want to give me the phone, Kiss?
Yes, spring. CMAC was asked to put together and do a comparative study of various operating, financial, marketing, pricing operations of other community centers as a base case to help the town to have a base case of research to help the town decide and as what we should be doing as we move from the Carroll building into the new facility. It's important that, and I've gone through the particular material a couple of different times, and it is truly rich. And as we think about Carroll and what the continuing role of Carroll might be, I think it's important for all of us to consider how that research and the people who put that research together, how they will be able to contribute to discussions that we intend to have as we move to implement or take residents in the new facility. One of the things that I found sort of surprising, although it really shouldn't have been surprising, is that transitions are treacherous. And we are in a transition period. We have a committee that's been in operational mode for 20 years that we, the town, we, the BOS, we could decide what to do with. We also, the town, on the town side in particular, we've migrated management practices in a way that also is sort of different from how practices in the past. Everybody knows that we've moved more to a professional management of staff to fill open positions. Everybody knows we've been having a harder time with volunteers. And so as we approach I don't want to say the opening of it, it's still 12 to 15 months away. How we do things now is different from the way that committees operated in the past. So the long and short becomes we need to work through and figure out what the continuing role of CMAC will be over what period of time and what we would like the people to do. And regardless of the choices that we make, whether it's end the committee, suspend the committee, repurpose the committee, or none of the above, it's important to make sure that we preserve the work and of the people who did the research for us in the spring and continue to do it from time to time, and that we don't lose their expertise and we don't lose knowledge, because I think it will be invaluable as we struggle with the same sort of issues that they've researched, to make sure that the community facility that we engage is run at at the A level. So there's nothing that we need to do tonight, but it's surprising that it's surprising that how quickly this seems to have come about. I remember being very happy about the 2021 town results, and we started to work, the building committee in particular started to work through the detail. And now it's a sad moment. A lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of commitment, a lot of perseverance, a lot of resilience, a lot of just grit. I don't want to have changed without really strong recognition. And I know we talked about that again. But the immediate role now is to think about how we use the talent that we have, use the material that we have to implement, to continue or to complete the work that's necessary to ensure a smooth opening of the Cal facility, hopefully in the second or third quarter of 2023. And that's one piece of it, and I think we need to consider how best to do that with CMAC. The other issue that sort of popped up, which also surprised me, was the town has moved to a mode of working on issues that's different from how a committee would do it. And so, for example, we deal now with, for a particular issue that needs to be resolved, we put together a working group. The working group does the work, come back, syndicates the results, takes feedback, and ultimately makes a presentation to the board for its recommendation. There's one of the positions that has been discussed at length is the facility manager or the building manager position. And this goes back to probably 2019 when Ford and I visited Lexington, and there's been a lot of debate about the role and the responsibilities. And just in the last week and a half or so, Chris put together a small working group to leverage some of the job descriptions that we have put together, that we found, talking about that position. Now that's different from the normal way a group this would have been handled in the past. The question would have come up, we would have teed it up, we would have asked the CMAC committee to do the research, et cetera, and make a recommendation. And so in this transition process, there's a mixture of old, a mixture of new. And sometimes we jibe the new, not thinking about the old. And I want to make sure that as we go forward, we enhance our communication, make sure we understand the different roles and responsibilities that we have, understand the motion of going forward as we move out of one set and into the other set. At some point in time, as we go through this, I'm going to make sure that the Board of Selectmen makes the decisions that we have to make on some of the critical questions that are coming up. So it's just a way to say we're at a tipping point. I want to make sure that as we go through the next phase, we're all on the same page. And because I know we're all trying to do the right thing for the town. That was so good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So, anything else that Bob, that you other items that you want to mention, or I think we have covered everything on our side. The agenda, as you see in front of you for the next couple of weeks, is action packed. Nothing really that I would like to highlight on it. It just we are moving very quickly towards town meeting and lots of items to cover. So thank you both. We're going to move to our next topic, which is the town administrators.
Sorry to interrupt. I think Kathy would want to say something, and I would like to say something after Kathy, please, in reference to Bob's comments.
I'm sorry.
If that's possible.
I'm sorry, Ruth. I was moving on. I didn't hear what you said, Ruth.
I said that Kathy's had a hand up. I think she would like to say something in reference to Bob's comments about the community centre, the CMAC, and I would like to say some comments after Kathy, please.
Okay. Kathy?
If that's possible at this stage.
Let me hold that question. Kathy,
John, this was not an agenda item. These are just Bob's comments. So I think, we should probably put it on the agenda and have a broader discussion.
Yeah, I would prefer that, Robin. And if it was a comment or questions, or Ruth, or of substance, and you feel that it should have a time and a place on the agenda, then let's have that conversation. I think that's probably the most efficient and most prudent way. Bob?
No, I think that's right. I think the issue needs to be addressed as an agenda item at an upcoming meeting. Yep.
Okay. And I mean, no decisions are being made based upon Bob's comments. They're his observations. So I think based upon his observations, we should add it to the agenda and have a conversation. And that conversation would include CMAC,
Yeah, certainly. I think the three of us that represent CMAC who are on the call tonight, Jen and Kathy and myself, would like it to go onto the agenda, and we would like to support the town in whatever way we can from a position as being on CMAC. And yeah, basically just work with the town to make sure that when the community centre is built, it is filled, and that we can have some input on the comment on the things that Bob mentioned. So things like the fees, the employees, the structure, the hours, etc. I just feel like CMAC is a very valuable asset from a building committee member point of view. Having been through this process, I think it's a very valuable point to put onto a future agenda.
And I agree. I mean, it took 18 years, not 20 years to get where we are. So, it will take more discussions to figure out what the next steps are.
Yeah, we've got some valuable volunteers on CMAC, and I don't want to lose them. They've got some valuable input to help with this project.
Ruth, that's sort of my thinking, and I was trying to frame it in the context of, if that's something you'd like to do, then definitely I think it should have its own agenda item, rather than just having a very, couple of minutes of very brief conversation this evening at the very end of our meeting.
Yeah, and we thank Bob for bringing this up and for putting it forward tonight so that we can make it an agenda item in the future.
So I have a question.
I'm sorry?
Question.
Kathy?
Yes. So if you put it on a future agenda, whenever that is, do you wish us to continue to do the work that we were in the middle of when this topic got raised here? We're in the middle of trying to do what we had been asked to do by our Board of Selectmen representative on the committee. And so it's an unfinished task, getting some more of the information. Is it worth continuing? And how long are we going to be in this limbo before you meet?
I think everybody's jumping the gun here in getting upset. I mean, Bob had observations. No decisions were made on Bob's observations. It's the start of a conversation. The committee has not been disbanded tonight. It's just the start of a conversation to think about, the building's closing at the end of March. It's a reasonable time to think about, all right, what are the next steps? So I think we should all, if you're working on projects right now, there's no reason to stop those. No decision has been made.
So let me add to that, Rob. Thank you, Robin. Kathy, let me just add to that. I didn't get any. I may be missing something, and there may be something that you're seeing or others are seeing that I'm not seeing. But I don't view this as anything this process is being complete. The process has just begun. We have, as Bob mentioned in his remarks, we've reached a critical stage at this process, and it's a process. It's got a long way to go. There's many parts of this. So and again, please, if I'm missing something, where I'm certainly open to having conversations. As I mentioned to Ruth, Kathy, the board always wants as much information as we possibly can get. I don't think I'm missing anything, but I'm really not picking up in any way, shape, or form that there's anything changing. We're evolving. We're going through a process, as Robin just pointed out. So I think the most prudent thing to do is let's agree to have this as an agenda item, and we'll determine what the most efficient way for that item to be heard on an upcoming agenda. And I just think that personally, I appreciate the work that everybody has put in on this, and as you all know, and everybody on this evening's meeting knows, that this has been something we all collectively have worked extremely hard on for many years. So that's the spirit that I would like to move forward with, and let's just agree that we'll table this for this evening and have a respectful conversation in an agenda item at a further meeting. Bob, Robin, you good with that?
I am, John, and the point is to start the dialogue, right? raise the issue, start the dialogue, and find a way to move ahead.
Robin?
You know, I agree. And as I said, it's not lip service. CMAC will be part of the conversation. You know, we're all together, figure out what the next steps are. You know, you guys have done incredible work. Everybody should be really happy where we are right now. And, you know, I certainly am looking forward to a new building in the center of town. And, you know, I think it's going to be a very vibrant building and the cornerstone for this community. So, and you guys, you know, I don't know that people understand this, but you should all be celebrating and giving yourselves a ton of credit. You were huge contributors in getting us to this decision and where we are today. So, you know, I really appreciate everything you have all done.
Ruth, Kathy, what I would ask is that you connect with Kate, determine what's the best date or the best dates. Give her a couple of dates that you would be available, and then we'll make it a priority to be on and up and as soon as possible, as soon as we can get you on the agenda. We'll do that. Is that agreeable?
Yes, we'll make it agreeable.
Yeah.
Ruth?
Yeah. And Jen too, who's also part of our committee.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jen. I'm sorry. I apologize to both of you. I in the view that I'm on, I couldn't see everybody, and I'm literally trying to do three things simultaneously on my side here, and just keeping the meeting moving. So I apologize for
the Zoom thing is new to you, John?
I'm sorry?
The Zoom thing is new to you?
Oh, Robin. Oh, just, you know, so nice having your oversight in my life. I appreciate
Somebody's got to do it. Dave Sullivan was going to jump in. I could tell.
I appreciate it so much. So Ruth, Jen, Kathy, thank you. With that, I'm going to move to the next item, and that's Chris's updates. Chris?
Thanks, John. A couple things for the board this evening quickly. Happy to announce that our new web cemetery platform is getting close to being ready for prime time. Dave's putting on the finishing touches in terms of training with the cemetery staff, organizing a final sit down with the cemetery commission. And then we'll be able to go live with it in the next couple of weeks. We've got a presentation scheduled for the board right now for April 14th to give you a preview and a sneak peek of what the public-facing portal looks like. That's, if you remember, one of the great benefits of this new application is that it not only updates and provides a good back-end support system for cemetery maintenance, but also provides a really nice, robust, interactive front-end portal where people are able to navigate through and see the details of the facility and the grounds over there. So it's a really great thing, and great work done by Dave, Rusty, and the Cemetery Commission to date. John and I are going to be meeting with our congressman next week to talk about our infrastructure funding priorities, to make a pitch for some of the federal infrastructure funds that have been released the past month. We intend to talk about the three primary areas that have been discussed for the past few years. The first is the Central Ave Center Street Bridge that we share with Needham. The other is Claybrook Road. And the third are the two Willow Street and Dedham Street culverts that are failing. So I'd appreciate, can be this evening or by email, if the board has any other infrastructure related priorities or interest areas that you'd like us to discuss at that phone call. That'd be great. That call is on Thursday morning. In a similar vein, we just got notification from the state today that the Center Street and Central Ave Bridge has been added to the state's funding program. Doesn't mean that we're guaranteed funding yet, but it puts us in the slot for funding as we move forward. So there's some additional application materials that we need to provide for them, but this is essentially the way that mass municipalities get their bridges funded, both from a design standpoint to a construction standpoint as well. So wanted to highlight those two things. On the Hale front, we continue to meet weekly with the Hale group internally. We continue to have really robust conversations. I'd say that we've to date have out almost everything that all the areas of interest and some of the concerns that have been raised by our internal group. And I think we're actually, from my perspective, actually getting pretty close to finalizing a proposal that we'll be able to bring back to the board. I don't want to put a time frame on it and then miss it, but in the very, very, very near future. So things are going well on that front in terms of shaping out what a proposal looks like and the details around the CR. And then the last thing, and potentially most or more timely, is just to follow back up on some of the earlier comments around town meeting and the upcoming agenda, and how we look at the look ahead, and we've only got 3 board meetings before town meeting. So one of the things that I wanted to raise with the board tonight and have a discussion with, or to get some initial feedback, is thoughts on town meeting informational materials and sessions. So the past few years, the board has had 2 or 3 pre-town meeting informational sessions in April leading up to town meeting. Opportunity, it's very similar to open hearing, an opportunity for the articles to be presented and attendees to ask questions. We've got quite a few articles on this year's warrant, and while some of them are simple in nature, I think, I wonder if perhaps there's a better medium for us to think about this year incorporating as we head into town meeting. So one of the things that Rob and I were chatting about earlier was, putting together some videos about each article that we could post on the website so people could get kind of the feel for those informational sessions, rather than having to, join a meeting where everyone comes back and runs through all the articles. So I just wanted to open up for the board what direction you'd like to head in as we've got 6-7 weeks before town meeting in terms of pre-town meeting presentation materials.
Right,
Chris,
so,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Robin.
So, Chris and I were talking, and, a couple of years ago, we set up on the website like that page where you can put all the information on each of the warrant articles. So it's the specific link to go to for town meeting. And I thought, some other towns, what they have done is we could have presenters on Zoom record their presentation, and the presentation would be added onto the Zoom link. So with the actual hard copy presentation, so if people are interested at their leisure, they could go and listen to a presentation before town meeting. Because that was one of my comments. I thought the presentations at the open hearing were too long. Yeah, it was just, your eyes just glazed over. So I think it might be a great way for individuals that are interested to be able to educate themselves on one warrant article at a time without having to read it. And we could kind of time it with the blue book and even have links in the blue book to some additional information on the website. Just another way to see if we could get, if we're successful in getting information to citizens of Dover.
Robin, hang on one second, because I have some comments. Bob has some comments, but Rob Andrews is here with us tonight from Warrant, and Rob has his hand up and would like to add something. Rob, can you hear me?
Yeah. I just wanted to let you know the timetable for the Blue Book is very tight, which is so if there's anything that the board wants to have connected to what's in the Blue Book, our first draft is the first week of April, so it's really a really tight turnaround. But
Wow.
I like the idea, which
And
I'd love to have a longer conversation after town meeting about just like the timeline in general, because I feel crushed with the Blue Book timeline, and maybe there's a more modern approach, although I might get booted from Warrant Committee for even suggesting that. But anyways, that's for another time, but I just wanted to point that out.
No, thank you, Rob. That it's a timely comment, no pun intended, because I mentioned earlier. I don't know if you had joined, Rob, but in our comments, in the Selectmen's comments portion, that we had caucus and open hearing, and that as efficient as you were in open hearing, which you were very efficient running the meeting, and you allowed, even though you allowed some people to ask questions repeatedly, you were very gracious and empathetic in your listening. But it's going to get really long, really fast.
Agreed 100%.
So, there were many things. So I heard from people who were part of the meeting and people who just had heard part of the meeting that that's something we really got to think about. So there are warrant articles that, as Chris just said, are simple articles, but they're going to generate lots of debate over things that they're not big cost items, but they're cultural items, if you will. So, and there are several of those. So I think we really have to be mindful if there's a way to address them and there's a way to really move them along without them being a really a part of the town meeting and really drawing a lot of the attention and time from town meeting. I think that would be something we really got to address. Bob, would you like to add?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by some of that. I mean, nobody wants to sit through that the lengths of those presentations. It's all sort of inside baseball stuff. It's good to know the detail and understand it if you're in the decision-making sort of vein and understand the flows. But as a citizen, what you want is some two-line summary version of what the warrant is, what it means, what it doesn't mean. And I take that from, I thought the most successful thing that Ford and I did with the Carroll Building Committee was the FAQ 20 questions, right? There were 20 questions that we repeatedly heard. We wrote 4 sentences to describe what the question was and 4 sentences about what the answer is. And everybody, or a lot of people, came to the meeting with that information. So when you're talking about the warrant articles, there are a number of them that are procedural of nature, particularly among the planning board. And if there was a way to just give a quick, 2-line, 3-line summary version of the item, it might go a long way to assuaging people's curiosity. Because I just don't see how you have to drastically reduce the content in order to get it down to something that people will pay attention to. And that's the challenge, right? That's the challenge.
Bob, again, I'm happy to take this offline, but I'm happy to maybe pull out, part of the Blue Book, we try to put layman's terms on each article before our recommendation. So it is feasible to pull out just without the recommendations, just the descriptions of it. But you guys decide what you'd like, and I'm happy to help facilitate with that. And I'm sorry I got bedtime
Okay, hey Rob, I'm sorry. I wasn't talking about the Blue Book in particular. I was talking about how we can.
Right.
I'm
just saying that I'm happy. The warrant committee is happy to collaborate with the Board of Selectmen on on getting information to the citizenry. That's very important.
Okay, thanks. So it was just so I don't know how effective us doing an information session from going over that kind of stuff would be. I don't remember what sort of feedback or attendance we got in the past. But if you want to get the information out to me, something like here are the most important warrant articles, and here's a quick synopsis of what it's about, and you blast it on social media and you blast it and have it available on the website, and you send it out to the town in sort of a newsletter, might be the best way to get the information out. Again, it's just a suggestion, and we don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, we're all in agreement there.
So when you talked about the YouTube, the Monday's presentation was on YouTube, so presumably the full content is on YouTube and could be added to our website.
The people who reported back to me, Bob, had for the most part watched it, and what they were, as you, I think everybody said the same thing. There are a couple of presentations where two in particular are 20 pages, 20 slides, or 20 plus slides. There's it's just not going to be possible to get through. As I said, as judicious and efficient as Rob was on Monday night, it is not going to happen in 2.5 hours. It's going to be 5 hours, because there's going to be debate, and there's going to be people who hold items even in the part that we would consider the consent agenda items. Right. There's going to be items where people want to know, as it was on Monday night, how many police officers we have. I mean, that's
16 four times.
we all know that, and unfortunately, so you get the idea, right?
So back to Chris's point, though, how should we? What attempt should we make? What sort of media should be used to do our part to inform citizens about the meeting, the warrants, and the content?
So, we have used the website in the past. I think the problem with the open hearing is who has 2 hours to listen to everything. So the idea here was just have each sponsor of a warrant article take 5 minutes and pull together their presentation, get on Zoom, record it, and give it to Kate. Sorry, Kate, you just were the first person I saw. And put it on the website, and if somebody's interested about a planning board article, but they only have time to listen to one, they could go listen to one. It's just, I don't even know if anybody's going to go to the website, but it was just a thought. Mm-hmm. It's all additive. Other towns do it. It works for them. There's some other towns. Carol Lisbon suggested that I look at Sudbury, and if you take a look at Sudbury, they have, Sudbury they make the assumption that people come to their town meeting prepared, and all the information is on their website, and the expectation is that you read it before you come to town meeting.
Yeah.
I think that's right. It actually was your comment about some sort of a summary view of the presentation that caught my attention. Right? And so having basically an executive summary of what the warrant is and means.
Right.
People and various media that people can access to see that. That would be, to me, the only thing that's probably doable in the short term.
It's just a thought.
Yeah. No, I think it's something we should do.
I totally agree.
I think it's one of the things we should do.
Totally agree with all the above. Rob just posted it to the chat, the link. Thank you, Rob. And we will try to do everything we possibly can. And Bob, Rob, everybody who's on the call right now knows this, that when you get to town meeting and when somebody stands up and gets to the microphone and says, I haven't read the article, but you just want to slide under your seat because that's, 2 minutes or however long Dave Haviland and Jim Rapetti give them. That's 2 minutes of your life you're never getting back. They're just, every time you hear that. So it's going to happen. It's just going to happen. And that's just part of town meeting. So, anything else you'd like to add, Bob, Robin?
So I want to know if Chris thinks he's got an answer.
Chris?
Yeah, I think the two takeaways that I got are, continue to push out the materials that we have on the website, onto different mediums, social media and others, so that people know that they exist. And I can get the team together and see how we might be able to start, doing a quick run this year about putting together some quick videos. I want to make sure that I want to be mindful about the time to coordinate the article sponsors and their availability to, sit down, and they'll probably want to write a script out. And so we'll see what we can kind of cobble together for some short video snippets that we can add to the presentations and the material that we already have up online. So let me know if I missed anything, but those are the two takeaways that I got.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Rob had to sign off. Bedtime at his house for the boys.
Bedtime for me. So.
Chris, anything else?
17.
Chris, anything else to add?
No further updates, John. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move to the consent agenda, and we have everything. We have everything in front of you. Nothing out of the ordinary. I move to approve the consent agenda as presented. Ask for a second.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
So we are going to move at this point. I'm going to make a motion to enter into executive session. I move the board enter into executive session not to return to the open session for the purposes of conducting strategy sessions in preparation for collective bargaining negotiations with the labor union personnel. Further, as chair, I declare an open meeting discussion may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the town, and a roll call is required for this vote. I, John Jeffries.
Hi, Robin Hunter.
Hi, Bob Springett.
So moved. We are going to take 4 minutes of a quick break and reconvene our next meeting, which is posted in your online, what Mona sent out. So we're going to close this session and enter into the next one. So thank you, everyone. For those of you that are not going to join us, happy St. Patrick's Day. I hope you have your brackets filled out for the men's basketball tournament, and have a safe and pleasant evening.